It started with a tremor, not an earthquake, but something different, an unnatural vibration that seemed to pulse through the very bones of the city. Windows rattled, streetlights flickered, and people paused, uncertain, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Then, impossibly, a hand, bigger than a city bus, its skin rough and ancient, wrapped around a skyscraper, dwarfing the steel and glass like a child's toy. The building groaned under the pressure, and the city's heartbeat skipped. The world stopped. For a moment, there was a global intake of breath, a silence so deep it seemed to swallow the city whole. Cars sat abandoned in the streets, traffic lights blinked to no one, and the usual hum of life was replaced by a chilling stillness. Chaos erupted. People screamed, running in every direction, desperate to escape the impossible. The air was thick with panic, the sound of sirens drowned by the roar of terrified crowds. This wasn't a movie or a hoax, it was real. News anchors, usually so composed, stammered in disbelief as live footage played behind them. The world watched, paralyzed, as reality shifted before their eyes. The age of giants had begun. Their silhouettes loomed at sunrise, casting shadows that stretched for miles, their presence undeniable and terrifying. Stock markets evaporated in minutes. Communication lines were overwhelmed as millions tried to reach loved ones. The digital world, so reliable before, now flickered with red alerts and desperate messages. In London, a colossal shadow fell over the Houses of Parliament, turning day into dusk. The city's landmarks, symbols of stability, were suddenly fragile beneath the weight of something ancient and unstoppable. In Tokyo, a footprint the size of a park appeared overnight, crushing playgrounds and trees, a silent reminder of our new reality. We were ants in someone else's garden, small, insignificant, and utterly powerless. Our cities, once mighty, now seemed like fragile models in a world built for giants. News channels struggled to keep up. Experts were useless, their theories crumbling in the face of the impossible. The world's best minds had no answers, only questions. Governments issued stay-at-home orders, but they were pointless. No wall, no order, no plan could protect us from beings who saw us as little more than insects. The first 24 hours were a blur of disbelief and terror. Social media overflowed with shaky phone footage, desperate pleas, and rumors that spread faster than the giants themselves. Giants appeared in major cities, ignoring us completely. They moved with a slow, deliberate grace, stepping over highways and rivers as if they were nothing. They walked slowly, their faces impassive and ancient, eyes fixed on some distant horizon. To them, we were invisible. Our lives, our fears, our history, all irrelevant. We had spent centuries building our civilization, brick by brick, dreaming of progress and permanence. Our monuments, our skylines, our achievements all seemed so small now. In a single day, it was reduced to mere obstacles. Buildings toppled, bridges snapped, and the infrastructure we relied on was swept aside like debris in a storm. The world we knew was gone. Streets once filled with life now stood empty. Playgrounds silent, highways deserted. Humanity had become a footnote in a story written by giants. Life continued, but it was twisted and broken. The world we once knew had been reshaped beyond recognition, its familiar rhythms shattered. Every day felt like waking up in a nightmare that refused to end, where the ordinary had become extraordinary in the most terrifying ways. Commuting became a life-or-death gamble. The simple act of moving from one place to another was now fraught with danger, as the streets that once bustled with life were now silent, haunted by the ever-present threat looming above. Supply chains collapsed, food shortages became common. People scavenged for scraps, bartering for essentials, and every meal was a victory against hunger. The sense of community was replaced by desperation and suspicion. Our world was now isolated islands of humanity. Neighborhoods became fortresses, cut off from one another, as people clung to whatever safety they could find in the ruins. A giant's hand could cast a shadow over a neighborhood. The mere presence of these beings was enough to send entire communities into hiding, their size and power a constant reminder of our vulnerability. Their voices were deep rumbles that shattered windows. Conversations stopped, replaced by the trembling of glass, and the fear that the next sound could mean destruction. Architects watched as their achievements became furniture. The monuments of human progress were reduced to playthings or tools for the giants, their original purpose lost in the chaos. Our infrastructure was not built for this. Roads buckled, bridges collapsed, and the very foundations of our cities crumbled under forces they were never meant to withstand. We became experts at adaptation, living in shadows. Survival meant learning to move silently, to hide at a moment's notice, and to find hope in the smallest victories. Survival was the only thing that mattered. Every day was a test of endurance, and every night brought new fears. People clung to whatever gave them strength, whether it was family, friends, or sheer willpower. The psychological toll was immense. Convictions were shaken. The old certainties no longer applied, and many questioned everything they once believed in, searching for meaning in a world turned upside down. People looked up at the sky with dread. The horizon, once a symbol of hope and possibility, now held only fear and uncertainty. Children had nightmares of being plucked from beds. Their innocence was stolen, replaced by a constant anxiety that even sleep could not erase. We were a species living on borrowed time. The countdown to extinction felt ever present, a ticking clock echoing through empty streets and abandoned homes. Our future hung by a thread. Yet even in the darkest moments, a fragile hope persisted, a belief that somehow, against all odds, we might endure. What did they want? Were they here to destroy us? For every act of destruction, a story of help emerged. In the Philippines, a giant shielded a village from a typhoon. In Cairo, a giant swiped at a minaret, indifferent. Their intentions were a mystery, like a hurricane that could look back. Governments were paralyzed, releasing contradictory statements. Some worshipped the giants, others formed militias. We couldn't form a unified response. They were capable of gentle acts of salvation and thoughtless destruction. We were left to guess if the next step would save us or crush us. It was inevitable we would fight back. Faced with a threat so colossal, so unimaginable, our instincts demanded resistance. In war rooms across the world, military leaders pored over maps and strategies, convinced that human ingenuity and firepower could overcome any obstacle. The first military action took place in the frozen expanse of Siberia, where the giants had first appeared. Troops braced themselves against the biting cold, their breath visible in the air, as they prepared for a confrontation unlike any before. Fighter jets screamed overhead, launching missiles that streaked through the sky, leaving trails of fire and smoke. The explosions lit up the horizon, briefly giving hope that our technology might prevail. But hope was short-lived. With a single effortless motion, the giant swatted a jet from the sky, sending it spiraling to the ground in a fiery wreck. Tanks rolled forward, their cannons roaring, but the shells bounced harmlessly off the giant's shins, as if they were nothing more than pebbles. The giant stomped, and the earth itself trembled. The shockwave rippled outward, toppling vehicles and sending soldiers sprawling, as if nature itself was rebelling against us. Our best weapons, once symbols of dominance, were revealed to be mere toys. The illusion of our power shattered in an instant, replaced by a chilling sense of vulnerability. The fight was over before it truly began. Soldiers, stunned and demoralized, retreated from the battlefield, leaving behind only silence and the ruins of their failed resistance. News of our defeat spread rapidly, sending a wave of despair across the globe. In every city, people watched in disbelief as the world they knew changed forever. Soldiers refused to fight. Pilots abandoned their jets on the runways, unwilling to face an enemy that seemed invincible. The giants, indifferent to our aggression, barely acknowledged our presence. To them, our attacks were little more than a nuisance, not a threat. In the aftermath, governments around the world convened and with heavy hearts, declared the giants a protected phenomenon, recognizing that further conflict was futile. It was a confession of weakness, an admission that humanity had met its match. Our leaders, once confident, now looked defeated and uncertain. Our once mighty weapons were relegated to museum displays, relics of a bygone era when we believed ourselves invincible. In the end, we had no choice but to accept our new place in the world, a world where giants walked among us and we were no longer the dominant force. We stand at a crossroads, facing three futures. The first path is annihilation, collateral damage in their story. The second path is coexistence, learning to live alongside them. We might communicate, building a symbiotic relationship. The third path is subjugation, becoming servants or resources. Our intelligence would be our curse, making us perfect slaves. These are the choices before us, potential destinies of our species. Each day, we live on a knife's edge between these possibilities. The old world is gone. We must decide what to do. Your survival depends on your answer.